Greetings, Broadway babies.
Hey, peeps, what's happening?
Hey, it's Emily and Jeff,
right.
and you might notice we have a slightly different locale right now.
Yeah.
We are not in our little studio because we've been on vacation.
Yeah, we took a vacation.
We've been road tripping, so but we still watched the latest episode of Schmigadoon, so we have to talk about it. So even though we are in lovely Monterey, California right now,
as you can tell from the background,
as you can tell from the hotel room, but we still need to travel to Schmigadoon and talk about all the references. So we have videos breaking down episodes 1, 2, and 3. So make sure you check those out. They'll be linked around, and make sure you're subscribed to Stealing Focus. Hit the bell, do the thing, click the boopity boops, so that you can see all of our musical theater history content. So episode 4 of Schmigadoon was titled Suddenly. We're gonna get into all the references and also all the stuff that we really like.
All I know is suddenly I love you.
So, what's been really cool about the show in general is that there's been a very Rodgers and Hammerstein vibe, and they kind of started at the beginning with homages to Oklahoma, and kind of with every episode they've kind of been moving through the Rodgers and Hammerstein timeline, I feel, and this episode really gives us a lot of The King and I and The Sound of Music.
Yeah.
So we start the episode with a flashback, like every episode starts with a flashback to Melissa and Josh's relationship.
Yeah, they're slowly showing us sort of how their relationship was before they got here over the past couple episodes.
Yeah.
Really cool how they did that.
And the first reference is they went to go see a black box show, and the theater was called the Lonely Room Theater.
You guys, I can't relate to this enough.
The Lonely Room Theater is a reference to Oklahoma. That is Judd's song, Judd the villain role. It's his song in Oklahoma, which was cut from the movie because it's kind of dark. But I thought it was really funny that they named like a New York-y black box theater company Lonely Room Theater. Yeah, and also, like good. Jeff was saying, we can very much relate to the going to see a black box show with hardly anyone in it and seeing your friend naked on stage.
Yeah.
I can relate both as a performer and as an audience member. Hey.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, it isn't always that they're naked on stage, but it's always, somewhat of a tedious show you have to sit through.
Not always. But that's the joke.
A lot of times it is, and that's kind of, I can just relate to that. I mean, and I've been on the other side too. So
although, how very dare they got up laughing in the middle of that show. Your friend is going to give them so much shit.
Don't do that in real life. That's only for the TV show.
It's only for the TV show. Please do not walk out of the theater, especially a small black box.
And laughing like that when there's only 6 people in the house.
Your friend will see you. They can see you because they have eyes. Yeah. So don't be like Mel and Josh in that scenario.
Get in the scene.
In this episode, Josh finally meets Emma Tate, the school marm, the only woman in town who he hasn't walked across the little footbridge with.
Yeah, and she knows that he did it with everybody else.
And she knows what's what because she is very much the Marion the librarian from the Music Man character. So she's having none of his nonsense. When Josh comes to see her, the first thing that I noticed is on the chalkboard behind her, there's a list of states and their statehood, and every single one of those states is connected to a Golden Age musical.
Yeah.
So the first was Oklahoma. Duh. Brand new state, gonna treat you great. Gonna give you barley, carrots, and potatoes.
Is that from the show?
Yeah, it is. Okay, so Oklahoma, duh. There's also Maine, which is where Carousel takes place, and Iowa, which is where the Music Man takes place. So you are from Iowa. And Indiana, which that was a toughie, but you
Indiana.
You helped me think of that one.
But that's
Gary,
the same show.
It is the same show. It's also the Music Man. There's a song called Gary, Indiana. And the last one is New York, which, name it. There's I have a whole video. I'll link it. I have a whole video about New York musicals because there's about a zillion. You know how LA, we always like to write musicals about Hollywood. New York tends to like to write musicals about New York. So you take your pick. I would say any Comden and Green musical or Guys and Dolls. They're all in New York. They all take place in New York City. When Miss Tate, played by Ariana DeBose, Broadway actress, she was just in the film of The Prom, and she's about to be Anita in the film of West Side Story. So she's about to have a big moment.
Right.
And this show is kind of just showcased. She's like Tate, just another actual Broadway star they brought in for the show, and she's amazing. She's teaching class last, who are adorable little students later. They're all like in overalls and like have big bows in their hair. They look great. But she calls on a couple students, and she calls on a Tommy and a Zanita. And Tommy and Zanita are characters from The Music Man.
Wow. Hawkeye.
Yeah, well, you know.
Or ear.
Hawk ear, yes. Then we get our first song of the episode, which is called With All of Your Heart, which Miss Tate does with the students.
Yeah.
And that, I don't think it's directly parodying any specific song. However, the vibes I got off of it were less Marion the Librarian, because she isn't a school teacher, obviously. She's a little more reserved, although she does teach piano. It gave me a little bit more Anna Leonowis from The King and I. And maybe even a little Mary Poppins in there.
There's a little Mary Poppins in there. I mean, certainly The Sound of Music.
Not Golden Age, but, you know.
I mean, it felt to me like a song inspired by The Sound of Music. You know,
Yeah.
teaching kids this lesson. I mean, it's just all right there.
Oh,
But
so
great
that's
stuff.
the other one. For me, this was very much like I Whistle a Happy Tune or Getting to Know You from The King and I. Because, The King and I and The Sound of Music are the two Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals that are like really kid-centric. There's a lot of kids in them. There's just kids running all over the place. So those are good shows to take songs from to teach kids. I take songs from those shows all the time. That's kind of what it felt to me, but with like a little bit of a tap vibe. The chord progression of the song itself actually reminded me of a certain sequence in the song Thoroughly Modern Millie, which is from the movie Thoroughly Modern Millie, then adapted into the musical Thoroughly Modern Millie. So the number was really cute. There was a lot of tap dancing. I liked the kid. It was kind of just the same song over and over, that she sang it twice, and then the second time the kids were interjecting kind of little stuff with their little chalkboards.
Now, is there a direct corollary to the spelling out the words like the kids were doing? Because that was really funny. I love that they did that, and that seemed
Matilda.
It felt a bit to me like they kind of just created that. Like that's not really. That
I mean, that's
isn't
Sound
in
of
the
Music.
classic-
That's Sound of Music. That's The King and I. That's.
These are like
a
the
lot of
kids
these
like
shows.
spelling the words out in the background.
It was really cute.
It's pretty great.
Yeah, that almost reminded me of Matilda more than anything else, but
Yeah.
that's like a 2015 musical or something. I could unironically teach that song to kids.
Yeah.
And I probably will. Thanks, Schmigadoon.
You know, it feels like it could also be like an Avenue Q song. You know, let me tell you about how this goes. You know?
Yeah, well, Avenue Q is in itself parodying, you know, Sesame Street, so
Right.
education.
There you go.
At the end of the song, they did the tried and true musical comedy trope of everyone just instantly laughing.
Yes.
And then Josh says,
and he references it. He says, "Why are they laughing? Nothing even remotely funny happened." and the reason is because when you're on stage and the audience is clapping, you have to have something for your actors to do.
You have to have something
to break the moment.
Yeah, while the audience is applauding. Yeah.
And it's also a thing that happened in old classic sitcoms. You know, they would.
It happens in old movie musicals more than anything. Like Singing in the Rain, after they do Good Morning, they just sit there, they land on the couch, and they just start laughing like they had the best time. It happens all the time in old movie musicals.
It's funny because there's something about it that always bothered me, but I understand why it's there.
It's because in the audience you're doing this and you're reacting.
I appreciated that reference.
We see that Alan Cumming is clearly in love with Fred Armisen. He wanted to get his rhubarb squares.
That was
Both
so
of them
cute.
were so cute. They're both kind of speaking with these little kind of low tones and kind of leaning into each other. And they're just so cute.
Well, Kristen Chenoweth comes over and grabs it from him.
She's
goes
like,
the other
you
way.
remember your diet.
And then he shares his, which is a beautiful moment.
very
Wonderful
cute.
sentiment. I thought she would have not seen that, but she saw it. So she knows.
So Chenoweth's
She
going to
knows
have
what's
her
up.
big operatic, like,
She's gonna have her
villain
villain
song.
song.
Yeah, in the next few episodes, just watch. Okay, so then we get to maybe the funniest part of the episode, and definitely the reference that even the most basic, I've seen one musical in my life normie will get, and that is Cecily Strong's Vagina song.
Yeah.
As soon as she showed up, so she's working for Doc Lopez, and Doc Lopez is very much her Captain Von Trapp.
Oh,
he's
totally.
he's very much stuffy and this can't be this and that can't be that. And there's a girl who comes to him and she's pregnant but she's unwed, so he says, "No, you can't. No. Get out of here. Get out of here. You figure it out."
Yeah.
So Cecily Strong goes to find her, and she's up with her sailor boyfriend up on a mountaintop. And as soon as I saw that mountaintop and I saw her nurse outfit, I was like, "We got a Sound of Music, something coming." And so they don't understand how babies are born or babies are made or any of that stuff. So she picks up the guitar and says, "Let me see if I can make this easier for you. D D D D D D. Vagina is where," and it's do re mi.
Vagina is where the penis goes. Ovaries make eggs for you and me. Testes
Are where the sperm repose.
cervix
Is where they can swim free.
That's right. La, a look to follow. So very good. Tea on a drink with jam and bread. Yes, that will bring us back to
The vagina.
It's actually a really great, scientifically accurate,
Yeah.
yet easy to digest little song. Like, you could teach that song to
Well,
kids,
like,
trying
no-
to teach them about the birds and the bees, you guys.
Yeah, I think it's a really funny idea though, because
It
it
was
sounds
funny.
like that song has always seemed kind of like a scientific lesson to me. Obviously, because she's teaching them how to sing.
She's
In this
teaching them
case,
solfege.
We're just teaching. Yeah, she's teaching them solfege. But in this, she's like teaching her. This is how like humans are made.
Yeah, it was
It's good.
really cute. Almost everyone has seen The Sound of Music, even people who don't really know or like musicals. Yeah. And even if they don't, they've probably learned Do Re Mi through osmosis. So that is a reference everyone's going to get.
And it could be a good cabaret song, you know, going
Ooh,
forward.
yes,
It'd be really funny to cabaret. The whole audience will sing
This whole
along.
show, Schmigadoon is just,
All of these
every
numbers,
song is
yeah.
going on my cabaret list. Oh, so what I really like, one of the things I really like about the show is that they've made it very clear that they're not letting the characters, other than Melissa and Josh, because they're the outsiders, they're not letting the characters in Schmigadoon comment on the fact that they're in a musical, which I think makes it better. If they're
Yeah, it has to
commenting
be
on
that
it
way.
every 2 seconds, like, I just did a whole song about it,
There's
it's not
no-
as funny.
Exactly.
And we see an inkling of that in like the first episode when Cecily Strong says to Aaron Tveit, like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you just did this song," and he
he's like,
goes,
"What?"
"Song?"
Yeah, he's like.
And this happened in this episode. I don't remember why, but Emma Tate asks Josh a question.
Oh, yeah.
And he's thinking about it, and
Here's
then
the music.
music starts playing, and he goes, "I'm not doing this, no." And she thinks he's just responding to her, and she's like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Oh my god. Okay.
Clearly I triggered you."
Clearly, you don't want to talk about
Yeah,
this."
yeah.
So that was a really funny moment. I
Really
feel like Josh, at the very end, he's going to sing a song.
Yeah.
And that song's going to be called The Skinner Feeling, and he'll be singing it about Mel.
I think you nailed it. You nailed it. She cracked the
Mark
code.
my words. But I really like that they're doing that. I think it makes the show so much funnier because it's true. They're, especially in Golden Age musicals, they don't comment on the fact that they're in a musical. That's
Right,
a more
yeah,
modern
it's-
kind
you
of
can't really-
concept.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Jeff's got his delicious
Yo.
hotel room coffee. Isn't hotel room coffee the best?
You can tell, you know, how fancy a hotel we're in.
Ugh. So while Mel is fixing up poor Pete, because he's our character who
I'm glad Pete got his moment in
everything
the sun.
happens to Pete. Josh comes to visit her while she's fixing up poor Pete, who Pete I guess got burned because he was hanging out near boiling pots of corn pudding.
But Pete gets hurt all the time. He gets
That's
shot.
the joke.
He gets blown away.
That's the
like-
recurring theme. That's
gets
that
hit with an
little
arrow.
ensemble role that you give to like your kid who's like a 7th grader and who's
Yeah.
not ready for a lead role yet, but is just funny enough. So you give him that funny ensemble role to do some pratfalls. Anyway. Teachers, can you relate? So
Perfect.
Josh comes to visit Mel, and we get some really cool moments in this little scene. You see that their connection is still kind of there,
Yeah.
of course. Mel makes a lot of points in the scene that are kind of highly relatable for me. First of all, she gives the, I forget who said this first, it's kind of the mission statement of a musical is when the emotions are too big,
Yeah.
you sing,
Yeah.
and then when they're too big to sing, you dance. Then Cecily Strong tells Josh that he's probably going to be like the Harold Hill type to Emma Tate's Marion the Librarian. He's like, "Oh, tell me about him." And she says, "He's a morally adrift narcissist who needs to change." And then she says, "Oh, but she's a teacher. It could be like Anna in The King and I." And he's like, "Well, who's that guy?" And she says, "A morally adrift narcissist who needs to change." And that's very true.
Same with a lot of these guys. Henry Higgins, for instance.
Yeah, Henry Higgins is a morally adrift narcissist who needs to change. I don't know if he does. Harold Hill does. And the King of Siam does, and then he dies.
The theatrical storytelling lends itself to that kind of character who obviously is in need of something and they don't realize it.
Yeah. So I thought that scene was really cute. And then finally the capper was Cecily Strong was like, "Ooh, I don't know. I'm debating between whether I'm like really mad at you or the fact that I want to really share how much I know about musicals."
You can
And
very much relate
girl,
to that. Yeah.
I relate. We should be fighting, but God, there's this really important thing I
So
need
many
to
of our
tell
fights end that way. You know, she really wants to tell me off, but she's more interested in educating me on musical theater.
It's always like, "Ugh, we're so mad," and then it's like, did you know that Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella drew in a bigger audience than 12 Super Bowls? Speaking of Cinderella, that's something we're going to get to in a second, but that's the other one of the other big Rodgers and Hammerstein classics, and because you don't usually include it in the Big Five, because the Big Five were all stage musicals first, and Cinderella was created as a live television event first, and obviously they're the two remakes, the best being the 97 Brandy version, of course. We have a video about that. But Jeff was also in Cinderella.
Yeah, the version that I did on tour, I actually replaced...
Based on the Brandy version, though.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I replaced Adam Jacobs. He was the prince. And I remember when we were in auditions...
Adam Jacobs, who would go on to be the original Aladdin.
Yeah, and I had
his sister, Ariel Jacobs, I knew, because I did some shows with her out in L.A., and then she would go on to play Jasmine, but not at the same time, because they're brother and sister, and that'd be... weird.
Yeah. I already did a couple of shows with him, but then I went out to replace him on the road. But it was, the Eartha Kitt version. Gospel number for the fairy godmother. All these...
A Gospel Impossible?
Just all of these changes that Andrew Lippin made to the score. But the role I was playing, Prince Christopher, was all the standard by the numbers Rodgers and Hammerstein legit songs. There's so many songs in this series that have reminded me of that experience with Cinderella.
He thinks he doesn't know these musicals, yet he's done South Pacific. He's done Cinderella.
Well, those are the only two that I ever did. I was in for, the UR16 going on 17 guy when I was younger, but I never booked it.
Oh, Rolf. The Nazi. You don't need to play Rolf.
I'm glad with that. I'm good with that.
So, the pregnant gal comes to Doc Lopez. He's not there. So Cecily and Josh deliver the baby. A completely dry baby, they say.
Yeah, that couldn't be possible, but it works for the script.
Yeah, it's Schmigadoon. It's Schmigadoon, baby. It's magic.
It's magic.
It's theater, yeah. And then we get our I think the equivalent is the moment where Maria tells off Captain Von Trapp. In The Sound of Music, where she's telling him about the kids, and then he's like, you gotta leave, and then he hears the kids singing, and then it's amazing. So she kind of tells him off because his parents, Doc Lopez's parents, want to have sex and use lube for sex, and so she's like, I'm gonna encourage them, and I'm gonna teach them all the poses, and they're gonna have a great time. Yeah. And then Doc Lopez's dad dies.
So great.
So they're at
really
the funeral, and she finds out that the younger Doc Lopez is a widower. It's kind of a sweet moment. She realizes, oh, maybe he's got some stuff. And the mayor is also there with his wife, and he kind of gets up the gumption to go up and sing a reprise of his song, Somewhere Love Is Waiting for You. However, he starts it with, I'm a homosexual.
Yeah, it just comes right out.
It's no longer subtextual.
Which is a lyric you had to put in there. You had to
That
do it.
is a great rhyme.
So good.
Well done.
Yeah. There's been quite a few of those.
Well done, everybody.
Impressed,
Homosexual, subtextual.
It's no longer subtextual.
It was great. So he came out, and then poor Anne Harada runs out, and Kristen Chenoweth gives a look.
Of course.
And then we know something's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So Cecily Strong gives Keegan-Michael Key the advice to give Emma Tate's little brother, Carthan, the Winthrop stand-in, a trumpet. And he's like, why do that? She's like, because he does it in The Music Man. Yeah. He gives her, and he says, why does he give her a trumpet? Why does that work? And she says, oh, why? Shapoopy, what, do you have time? You want me to tell you? Explain you everything?
Spoon feed you this whole thing?
Yeah,
you know?
It was so funny. Yeah. But he doesn't give him a trumpet. It's not a trumpet, it's a cornet, but whatever. Yeah. He gives him a kazoo. And they actually have a really cute moment on the swings, and he kind of does the equivalent of the fifth and the grumptieth gold thing moment. Instead, he says, I can make music! And he starts blowing the kazoo.
He's like, the best thing about it is you don't even have to practice. You don't even have to work at it. It's just like,
and then it works. And then Josh is like, oh my God, it worked. And Emma Tate's like, ooh, hey, just show you care about the kid. That's really important.
I mean, it's so funny. It's like, it's not, like they say it's a trumpet. That's not what it really is in the show. But it's not about the trumpet. It's about the meaning behind the act of giving the trumpet, you know.
Well, in The Music Man, it's because it makes him start coming out of his shell and talking. Yeah. And so it's the same with this. So it's really cute. the episode ends with a sequence where it seems like it's working out. Melissa and Doc Lopez are connecting, and Emma Tate and Josh are connecting. Doc Lopez admits, that he was wrong, and he says, "I was wrong about everything, and you were right." And Cecily Strong says, "That's the sexiest thing anyone's ever said to me."
I'm certain that I've said that at some point at the end of one of our fights. And I never heard the second line from her, but I'm sure that was subtextual.
I'll say it next time. They get into a song called "Suddenly," which is another one that I think it pulls from a few different influences. The first that really stuck out to me was "Something Good" from the film version of The Sound of Music. It's not from the stage version. So it was written after Oscar Hammerstein's death, which means Richard Rodgers wrote it by himself. Fun fact. But the joke of the song is that they're saying, "Suddenly I love you," and it's the idea that you kind of fall in love that fast in a musical.
Yeah.
But you had another one that it reminded you.
Well, there was you mentioned that I did Cinderella. I was on the national tour, and so I got to do this a lot. There was 10 minutes ago I met you, and it's sort of explaining how they just met and they can fall in love because that's how music.
Yeah, but I think it's more like "Do I Love You?"
But and then the other one, but they're both kind of happen at the same as he's learning about her, as he's meeting her, because unlike the Disney version, we have scenes together. We actually and there was.
You've seen the Brandy one. If you haven't, what are you doing with your life?
Right. So you can actually see why they fall in love, but it's still it is still pretty.
So they have a song called "Do I Love You Because You're Beautiful,"
or "Are You Beautiful Because I Love You?"
And I feel like that was very much in the song.
Totally.
It has that kind of more romantic vibe as opposed to like a waltzy dance vibe, which I think 10 minutes ago is more like.
I mean, when the song started and right when he came in, I'm like, this sounds exactly like a Prince Christopher song from Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella.
Yeah.
All I know is suddenly I love you. Or are you really as wonderful as you seem?
I think it's a really pretty song, and they have a beautiful little dance sequence where they're dancing in and out of each other's like split screen.
Yeah.
But it ends with both of them kind of kissing their new partners.
Yeah.
Emma Tate does the popped foot. You gotta love it.
Gotta love it. And you gotta love the way the doctor made that quick turn. Like he learned his lesson so quick.
He learned his lesson really quick.
I'm so impressed with this writing.
Yeah, it was really very funny. And I like how he was just kind of like so fuddy-duddy, wide-eyed whenever anything wouldn't go his way. Like, this is unacceptable. And he was really cute.
And then she's like, "I'm sorry that, your dad just died, and I'm sorry that your wife died like a year ago." It's like all this stuff is coming down pretty hard on this guy, but he's had this epiphany.
But he's in love. He's in love with Cecily. He's suddenly, "I love you."
You can't touch him because he's found this new truth.
So we have 2 episodes left.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And we still haven't gotten Jane Krakowski.
Right?
So she's got to show up for some big triumphant
Martin
moment.
Short's got to come back at some point.
He's got to come back, I imagine, when they cross the bridge. He'll be like, "You did it."
He was on set for one day, half a day.
Yeah, and so Kristen Chenoweth has got to have some big number coming up. Yeah, so we're almost, 2 episodes left of Schmigadoon. Make sure you're watching all our videos to catch all the references, because there's a lot.
Yeah.
So are there any other Golden Age references that we missed? Let us know in the comments down below. If you like what we're doing, you can always become a Patreon subscriber. We have a Patreon, and we would love your help making more videos. Okay, so I think we are about done. There's like kind of banging happening.
We're gonna drive back home.
Gonna drive back home and get to editing.
Highway 1.
Woohoo! We'll see you in the next installment of Schmigadoon.